Hey, welcome to the Snelling the Staffing Forging the Future podcast. I'm your host, Bennett Richardson, and today I'm joined by Lexy from Blue Line. Lexy leads a growing freight and logistics team based in the Midwest and is actively navigating hiring, team expansion, and some complex workforce transitions. Lexy, thanks so much for joining the call.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Well, do you mind for an introduction here, telling us a little bit more about Blue Line and how long you've been there and like kind of what your position is now?
Absolutely. We are a third-party freight brokerage. So we don't own any of our own trucks, but we're always happy to help our customers find trucks to move their freight that they need us to move for them. My position, I'm currently an operations manager. I started as an operations associate right out of college, moved up to a senior operations associate, and then now as an operations manager. So I've been there about 7.5 years, and it's been fun to watch the team grow. When I started, there was only a little less than 20 people. Now there's like 35 people, so almost doubled in the time I've been here, and it's been really fun to watch.
That's awesome. So that sounds like a lot of growth over 7 years. Meteoric rise. Have you had any whiplash throughout that time, or did everything feel pretty natural as you moved through different positions?
Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of up and down as far as just the freight market.
Right.
COVID was a big industry disruptor. I mean, for everyone, but especially transportation and freight.
Sure.
So we've kind of had those up and downs, but as far as like growth within the company, it's been pretty smooth. And we actually recently just had a big transition of my team got too big, so we had to split it in two to keep that kind of customer
Wow.
one attention that we like to have, that more individualized attention.
That can be tough when you're growing, maintaining really good relationships with customers, being very close. And it sounds like y'all are y'all are keeping an emphasis on that. That's really cool.
Yeah, especially, I mean, we're a service provider at the end of the day. Like I said, we don't have our own trucks or assets. So really what we are doing is providing that service. So it's nice to keep that real relationship with our customers and know them inside and out as an extension of them, because we want to make sure we're meeting their exact needs and not just being another broker. There's a billion of them out there.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I know that in recruiting, we feel that same kind of competition. There are so many recruiting agencies across the country. All we can do is just, maintain relationships, focus on communication, and do everything else the best we can. Simpler said than done, but definitely something to prioritize. Yeah. Well, I understand, Lexi, you're coming out of a very busy season in freight. How has that pressure impacted hiring and leadership over at Blue Line?
Yeah, it's definitely been a busy season, not only locally with the holidays and stuff, but also just industry wide.
Mhm.
Kind of what's going on right now with COVID. We saw a bunch of trucks entering the market because it was a very lucrative time for drivers to be in the market. So, current truck operations were hiring more people just to kind of
Mhm.
look or capitalize on that growth that they were seeing. And then we're also seeing just a bunch of new companies kind of come into the market. More recently, in the beginning of this year, we were seeing some of the tariffs come into place, which meant that customers were just kind of switching what they were doing, their operating procedures. They were having more safety stock and putting a lot more stuff into warehouses. So they were shipping things by rail since they didn't necessarily need them right away, and then putting them in the warehouses, kind of stocking up before some of those tariffs went into place, which means that on our side, the trucking business, we weren't as needed, weren't as utilized because they had more lead time and they already had a bunch of stock built up.
Okay.
Yeah, so that kind of affected, the trucking side. We weren't needing as many trucks. So we were seeing capacity in like our industry go down, less trucks on the road, less people able
Mm.
to take our freight, but also our customers not needing as many trucks. So right now they've both been going down at kind of a similar pace. And so we haven't seen, that affect like rates or anything like that yet, but we industry experts expect that pretty soon that'll kind of flip and that customers will start needing us again once they've used up that inventory that they've been doing, or if, the tariffs are taken off, things like that. Any kind of shift like that in the market can make us a lot more in demand.
Right.
Companies have been downsizing because they haven't been needed. And then once all of a sudden they're needed again, they're not going to be there. So that's where us as a brokerage kind of comes in, where we
Sure.
can bridge that gap for our customers and find those trucks that are not as easily found anymore.
Gotcha. Okay. Does that affect your day to day much at all? Like your operations side or on the hiring side? Have you all just kind of slowed that, not really actively hiring right now? Or how does that affect?
Yeah, thankfully, I mean, through all of that kind of up and down, we've still been growing as a company and also like within
Good.
my team, we've been growing. I mentioned that we just got so big that we've had to split. So we just want to make sure that we're able to give that one-on-one attention, but also have the flexibility to meet our customers' needs. So right now, they might not be needing us as much, but that can switch really quickly. So yeah, we're hiring and we're ready to kind of take on that freight once they need us more. We
Sure.
have a new girl starting in like 2 weeks. So in the short term, she might be sitting on her hands a little bit, but we really do expect that in the coming months, kind of once freight starts picking back up, that yeah, our customers are going to be depending on us a lot more, and we just want to be ready to grow and make sure that we're going to be able to handle anything that they can give us.
Yeah, that definitely. Well, I know, and that's often the case anyway. With the beginning of the year, things slow down. You kind of have to hold your breath for a second, see what's going to happen. But industry experts and recruiting also say that things are about to turn around. So hopefully, we'll see that kind of optimism come to fruition. Well, Lexi, when you think about building your team, what has worked well for you so far, and also what's been more challenging than you expected?
Yeah, I mean, I think the industry is changing as a whole too. We're starting to lean or get into some of like the AI sides of things, getting some
Sure.
software that helps us capacity match, like find those trucks that are harder to find.
Right.
So as far as hiring goes, in that case, we're looking for those more technologically advanced people, but also mixed with, we want to have those relationships with customers. So we need people who are good at relationship building, kind of finding that mix of people who are quick thinkers. Kind of our core values at Blue Line are loyalty, integrity, and agility. And especially with that agility piece, we need people that are, able to navigate the AI software, know what they're doing in there, but then also be able to jump on a call with a customer
Mm,
and them, human to human too. So it's definitely been challenging. We can't just focus on one set of skills when we're hiring.
right.
No, we need to make sure that we're getting the full picture of a person to make sure they'll be able to adapt to anything that we put in front of them.
Sure. That can be a tough balance to strike. Some people, I know for me, like, I think I have strengths in both arenas, communication and technology, but it also depends on the week a little bit. Like, there are weeks where I'm like, oh, I'm really understanding all our systems and we're looking at all these improvements, but I can't put a sentence together at all. Like, it can be a little rough there. So I feel for the candidate market right there a little bit, but it's definitely a good word of like encouragement to invest in a balanced way into these different areas. I think most companies are looking for that tech savviness. So you said y'all are bringing in AI and that kind of thing. How do you feel about that, Lexi? Like, I'd love to know your opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely kind of a two-sided coin. On the
Hmm.
one hand, most of like the carriers and the drivers we're working with, they're older, they've been in the industry for a long time.
Right.
So they can be a little resistant to using AI and like the
Yeah.
new softwares and things. So we do have to be sensitive to that, making sure that, we really understand their needs because there are those more tech savvy carriers that we're using that love the fact that they're able to like book their own freight and that they get an email anytime a load comes through that, would be interesting to them. So it's definitely striking that balance and understanding who you're working with and making sure
Right.
that you're catering to them. But it is super helpful overall. I mean, it's definitely an efficiency thing, being able to just go in there and have all that data in front of you.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, overall, you kind of have to deal with it. It's happening, not just in our industry, but overall. So I've definitely been one to embrace it and trying to, make sure my team knows what they're doing because it can be a powerful tool if you're using it right.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I think there's arguments to be had about whether human nature supports change or embraces it. It all depends on the person. But I know even for me, I'm only like I mentioned before the recording, I'm only 4 years and some change into this industry, but I'm already resistant to change attacks. Technological change. We brought on a new ATS last year, and that was all very difficult at times, but ultimately exciting. I guess that's human nature a little bit, is like being resistant to change. Hopefully, people can adapt and embrace it, because I think a lot of this new technology is going to support businesses and prop them up. It can be difficult in this transition period.
Yeah, sometimes you don't even realize like what the downfalls of it are. Like we set up this new system and think it's going fine, and then we get a call from someone that we used to use a couple months ago, and they're like, "Hey, where's all this freight? Like I haven't seen it in so long." And we're like, "Oh yeah, you kind of fell through the cracks. We've been giving it to this guy who is using
Right.
the AI, and maybe he doesn't provide as good a service, but like he's easier to find." So sometimes
Right.
I don't even realize what the downfalls of it could be.
No, it's definitely something to keep an eye on, and it sounds like y'all are prioritizing that appropriately. Speaking of transitions, without getting into anything confidential, how do you generally approach team transition? It sounds like you've dealt with a lot. Do when a role or responsibility needs to change? I'm sure there's been a lot of that going on as you split your teams up.
Yeah. So I guess just setting everyone up for success. We do build those customers or relationships with our customers. So when we're splitting a team, just making sure that everyone knows like what's going on, that the customers are aware of what's going on so that they're not, reaching out to me about a load that's no longer with me and then wondering why, I'm not able to answer their questions or servicing them. So
Right.
just a lot of transparency through those transitions and making sure that both teams are set up for success. So when we're splitting up the group, making sure that there's an even amount of talent on both teams and that, we're
Uh,
not putting it all on in one basket and then making sure we're hiring for the gap. So we split the team and now we're hiring a new person. So making sure that, she's going to be able to fill in where the other people weren't, we're losing manpower. So just making sure that she is going to be able to answer those calls and those questions and get up to speed as quickly as possible.
Yeah, transparency, especially for new hires. I mean, that's probably the word of the industry when it comes to recruiting. I say it like at least 3 times a day. I'm like, I want to be transparent with you, because that's how everybody knows what success looks like and what they're striving for as they start a new job. Well, I know you kind of mentioned this already. Are there any other qualities that matter a lot to you when hiring for key positions in your organization? I know you mentioned that good communication skills, technology, is there anything else that comes to mind?
It's a good question. I mean, we're looking for someone who is smart enough to crunch the numbers and like navigate the systems, but our biggest focus is really to be able to have that human connection and be a good
Yeah.
conversationalist. Because in this world of AI and technology, people really want that face to face or on the phone communication. So one of the big things that we push in our company and also our team is to get on the phone with customers if there's an issue, making sure that we're making that call and talking to them directly about it, bringing in that transparency piece, making sure that they know what's going on with their freight. So being able to find those people that aren't afraid to make a call, especially if it's bad news, which can be hard because not only in this day and age are people not making calls as much or they have more of that like screen communication. They don't have that much
Right.
in person. So making sure that we're finding those people who are comfortable to doing that and then giving them the resources to feel confident when they are doing it.
Definitely. It's good to acknowledge some of those reasons where those strengths might be something you have to foster as opposed to being intrinsic, which actually leads me to wonder, you seem like a really awesome professional community. Is that something that you came into your professional life with intrinsically, or is that something you think you fostered?
I feel like I came into my professional life doing that, but that was through years. I did mock trial going through
Oh,
high school, so that
yeah,
was a lot public speaking and having to present professionally in front of. I mean, there were real judges that we were presenting in front of, and
really?
having to have our case built and knowing what we were going to be talking about was really important in there. And then I also did speech too, so it's definitely
Yeah.
not necessarily something that comes naturally to me. I am more of a reserved person, but I have built the skill and it definitely is a skill that you can build. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily something that we require when we're hiring, but just to be able to see that they can hold a conversation with you when you're interviewing them, not even
Sure.
about like their previous work history, but like what they're doing in life, making sure that they're able to pull in from different facets of their life and keep things interesting, keeping people engaged. is huge these days.
Absolutely. That's cool that you did a mock trial. We did a couple of those in my government classes in high school, but never in front of a real judge. That sounds intense.
It can be intimidating for sure. And yeah, I mean, our team was pretty good. We got up to the state level all my years of college or of high school. And we even placed second one year, which we're a smaller school. So we were pretty pumped about that.
That's so cool. Well, yeah, again, I appreciate the focus on transparency. It made me think a little bit about how when I'm interviewing people, I always am looking for opportunities to give feedback. And I'm a bit of a people pleaser. That's something I'm working on. So, like, whenever I'm giving people feedback, I'm always tiptoeing. I'm like, are you open to hearing if I have some thoughts on this? Blah, 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 blah. But giving that feedback, that's one way that I think, you can again foster that skill in people, and I know I'm always looking to others saying, hey, well, how can I improve my communication skills? So yeah, that's one of those things. I think that's a lifelong pursuit. Communication, it's always something you can improve, and it can be a little bit of a headache, but it's a lot of fun when it's working well.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very team based, just the way that we're organized. So we're all in one room and all of our conversations are of other people. So I mean that is kind of a big hurdle to jump over when you're first starting. I know people are really
Sure.
nervous to get on the phones, but it's also nice, like I can hear anyone else's conversations, and if I hear something, a way to improve, then I make sure I jump on it right away and give that feedback so that it's a natural like flow of conversation. And if they
Yeah.
have questions or things like that, we're always open to hearing them.
I'm sure that's really appreciated by your employees. That does sound like it could be, a mix of intimidating and welcoming. When I started with Snelling, it's a similar environment, all in one big area, not much separation. So pros and cons of that are going to be there's a lot of transparency, and then there's also everyone can hear anytime I mess up, and that's terrible. No,
Right.
I think ultimately that's a really good system and a good way for someone to learn a company quickly.
Yeah, I mean, they get to hear my mess ups too, so I feel like it kind of keeps
There you go.
that two straight of like, yeah, yeah, I'm hearing all your calls, but you also get to hear all of mine. And it also kind of they can build their tools for communication that way too, of just like, oh, Lexi always says this thing, like maybe I should, start using that, and being
Right.
able to jump on the phones because they hear me on the phones all the time.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. As you look ahead a year or so, what kind of growth are you planning for at Blue Line, and does hiring factor into that?
Yeah, we did just hire the girl that's supposed to start in a couple weeks.
Right.
So immediate plans for hiring or firing, at least within my team. We
Mm,
also have an intern that will be coming back to us in May. So she'll be able to kind of fill the gaps of one of our other teams. But yeah, as far as growth, I mean, we are ready to grow at any time. We're always looking for new salespeople. They're kind of, the bread and butter of getting us new customers and building the growth that way. And then, so most of our growth kind of focuses internally currently, growing our current customers, making sure that
right.
we're getting as much as we can from our customers, making sure that we're servicing all of their needs, or if there's a certain portion of their business that we are not yet in, trying to like
Right.
tap into that business or try and help them in other ways.
Okay, cool. Sounds like you're thinking about, a lot of different ways to pursue growth. That's always exciting. What do you think companies get wrong most often when trying to grow their teams in today's market? I know that's kind of a loaded question, but
Yeah, that is a really good question. And my immediate reaction is just that they grow too big or try and like outgrow themselves. But
sure.
actually, the opposite. They're not ready to grow enough. I feel like I've heard a lot of
Well,
people
yeah.
say, they fired 3 people in my company and now they just split up their duties onto my plate. And now I'm overworked and
Right.
not doing the best to of my abilities because I'm stretched so thin. Whereas I feel like, giving your employees the appropriate amount of work and making sure that
Yeah.
we're ready for growth. I think that's something that Blue Line has really done a good job of. They trust their teams, they trust managers. And when I have gone to my boss before and said like, "Hey, I really think we're ready to hire another person. We're hitting our metrics, we're ready for growth, but we're really stretched thin right now. Like I can barely get to all of like the quotes or like meet my customers' needs." They've been really receptive to hiring a new person to making sure that we are giving that service that we want, which just leads to more business. So I feel like, the more
Sure.
receptive you are and, if you're able to take on more, then that business will kind of come because they see that you're doing a good job of servicing them appropriately, like you have the capacity to keep up with their needs. And so then they'll keep adding more to your plate, which kind of full circle, the more they add to our plate, the more space we need. So I feel like that's kind of what's led to our growth and why we've been able to break off into two teams. And hopefully we can continue that growth by hiring more and making sure that we're keeping ahead of the needs so that we're not being stretched thin and things don't start falling through the cracks.
I think that's a heck of an answer. Seriously astute. Because yeah, a lot of times in recruiting, what we'll ask clients is like, what does this cost you to keep this position open? And people are kind of holding their breath and waiting to hire. And sometimes that's not the financial cost, but the cost of burnout amongst your employees, people taking on more than they can reasonably and healthily handle. And so being open to hiring and spending money to make money, growing, spending, that money is necessary in order to have the best team possible. Well, I really appreciated your answer just then. I know this one's kind of similar, but if another leader in freight or logistics was struggling with hiring right now, is there any other advice you would give them?
Yeah, I think, don't be afraid to hire the best candidate. That sounds kind of backhanded, but I've been in the room with a lot of hiring decisions, and sometimes we get an amazing candidate. Maybe they're
Sure.
overqualified, or maybe their degree doesn't quite line up, but you can tell that they are so smart and that they have a lot of the core, values and things
Right.
you're looking for. And then I'll hear someone say like, yeah, but they might leave in 2 years, or they really want to be a leader or a manager. And we already have enough people who are looking for that. And I just think that, you should hire the best candidate. And if 2 years down the line, they're not happy there, they can leave, but at least you've had,
Sure.
2 years of really good quality work. Or they'll get in the position, they'll realize that they love the company, they love what they're doing there, they'll show, that they are a really good candidate, and then they might pass up those other people that you think are in the pipeline for that manager position. So,
Right.
yeah.
No, I think that's great advice. Being bold and brave with your hiring, giving people a shot. I think that all makes a ton of sense. Well, Lexi, nearing the end here, is there anything else you wanted to chat about today about hiring, about the freight industry? Any other final thoughts?
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, it's a difficult thing to navigate, hiring and firing, just making sure that your team is built the best for success and making sure that it's well-rounded so that you have, a variety of different talents within your team, but just making sure that you're ready for that growth because it can take some
Sure.
trust, when you're hiring that new person, making sure that you're going to have the work for them to be doing or that, your company is growing. But I just think investing in yourself and in your company is the best way to get that growth that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very well said. Well, Lexi, I so appreciate you joining the call today. It's been a great conversation. Before we jump off, are there any social medias, websites people should check out to learn more about Blue Line?
Yeah, you can find us. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn. If you're curious about either freight needs for us or hiring and firing, if you're looking to be a salesperson, you can definitely find us on Facebook or on Google. It's Blue Line Logistics, bluelinelogistics.com for Google.
Great. Well, I hope people will check that out. And I appreciate you joining the call today. We'll go ahead and bring this one to a close and you have a great rest of your day. Okay.
Great. Thank you so much.
Alrighty.